Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about something that I've kind of touched on in a few videos, and so I just feel like I'm just going to hit it kind of harder on this one, and that is dealing with the victim mindset. What I mean by that when I say victim mindset is that, now I don't want to take away from anybody if anything bad has ever happened to you, obviously. The sense that you're a victim in that something happened to you that you didn't want to happen, absolutely. This is coming from a guy like myself who, my parents got divorced when I was 9. I was a victim of that in the sense that I didn't choose it. If I had my way, it never would have happened. I've had all sorts of sicknesses. I've been in car crashes. Kind of my fault. Sometimes they weren't. Yeah, man, I started a company when I was like 19 or 20 doing construction. That came abruptly to an end because we got hit by a semi-truck. And it completely it destroyed my truck. I broke my collarbone. I got concussion. I had to deal with that for months on end. I've had family members close to me. My father died when I was young, my early 20s. Lots of stuff has happened to me that was completely outside my control. And when I was probably 25, at this time, well, 24, 25, I was married to my wife, Nigel. We had our first son, or our only son, but our first kid. You know, I had a lot of good things going for me. I was working a good job. I was healthy. I was strong. I had a beautiful wife, a wonderful son. We were living out in a country house. I was depressed. I was angry. I was upset. I had just come out of Bible school. I knew all the verses, blah, 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 right? I should have been, in the eyes of everybody else, I should have been in a pretty happy spot, but I wasn't. I was really anxious. I was really, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of anger and bitterness. And I remember one day, I was sitting in my room, or in the living room, and I was complaining to myself. And I remember just being just completely overtaken and upset and mad and really complaining in my heart about how things were going in my life. And God told me, he's like, Daniel, real softly. He said, life is hard and it's probably going to get harder. What are you going to do? And he kind of left me hanging there. And I see now in hindsight the wisdom behind that statement. But he said, what are you going to do? And I really thought to myself, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Life's hard. It's going to get harder. Because when he said that, he was really revealing to me that all these circumstances in my life, whether it was my dad leaving or the car crashes or sicknesses or all these things yes, I had been at the whim of these things. I did not want these things. I was a victim in that sense, that these things happened to me outside of my control, outside of my will. In that sense, I was a victim. But the worst part about all of those things wasn't even necessarily that I was victimized. It was that it developed a victim mindset within me. And so with that in mind, I want to tell you a little story. Tales from the coop, the chicken coop outside. We've got these 12 birds that we've been farming or raising or whatever you want to call it. We live in between two rivers. It's a highway for wildlife. There's dogs, there's coyotes, there's feral cats, there's raccoons, there's all sorts of predators out there. Hawks, eagles, you name it. These things are coming. And they want chicken. Everybody loves chicken. Everybody loves chicken. Every animal, every human loves chicken. It's crazy. And so I was reading these stories and people are saying, here's how you build your coop. Here's how you set up the cages to keep things safe for your chickens. And I was reading this one. It was talking about raccoons because we've had raccoons snooping around. And what they'll do is if the raccoons know that they can't get through the cage, they'll usually try. They try digging at it. Try pulling it apart. If they can't do that, what the raccoons will do is they'll work in pairs. So one raccoon will quickly rush up to the cage and scare these chickens. And the chickens are chickens, right? They're chickens. They freak out. And what they'll do is they'll all run to the other side of the coop. On the other side of the coop, there will be another raccoon that's waiting for them. What happens is the chicken's reaction forces them to the other side of the coop. Now they're up against the fence. They're within paw's reach, I guess you would say. And this raccoon who's on the other side will just reach through and grab them and just pull whatever he can through and munch on it. And people lose their birds like that because chickens react horribly to stressful situations. And I was thinking about that and I was like, man, that's me. That's how I've reacted to a lot of things in life. It's not even necessarily that the circumstance, whether it was a car crash, whether it was my parents getting divorced, whether it was whatever was happening, that stuff happens. But the part that got me in trouble was that it developed a victim mentality inside of me. These chickens, the raccoon, yeah, that was a threat, but it wasn't really what gave them trouble. What gave the chickens trouble was how they reacted to the circumstance that was outside of their control. So I think you can see where I'm going with this. We got to do away with the victim mindset. So what was happening in these situations in my life is something bad would happen outside of my control. And don't get me wrong, there's stupid things I've done too. We'll get to that in another video. But in this video, I want to talk to you about being a perceived victim of something. It's interesting because what'll happen is if somebody hurts you, like let's take my situation for example, just to be super honest here. My dad left our family when I was 9, and my tendency obviously was to pull back and to guard my heart from ever trusting. My dad was my hero, and he betrayed our family. And so my reaction is to harden myself. And I never want to be hurt like that again, right? I would never want to go through that again. I want to protect myself. But in that reaction, what happens is that my heart gets hardened to other people. And what I start doing is I actually start controlling situations to make sure that I never get hurt again. Some of the most controlling and angry people you've ever met are probably some of the most hurt people you've ever met. There's probably devastation in their lives you know nothing about. And they're doing what the average person does and guarding their heart from being hurt again. So they actually become a master controller and manipulator. They have to be in control of every situation, of every relationship, of everything that's going on. And if they're not in control, they're not comfortable. And they have to control it because they never want to be hurt like that again. Now, the Bible talks about this one gift of the Spirit, which, you know, we usually attribute it to like, I need to stop drinking, or I need to, clean up my room. It's the fruit of self-control. Looking at self-control in the way that you're not going to let other people control who you are or dictate how you're going to live your life. You're not going to let circumstances, you're not going to let the raccoons of your life make you freak out and run up against the cage, because the freaking out is what ruins your life. So how, just to finish that story from before about where God talked to me in my living room, the revelation I got through that was like, man, you know what? Life's hard. Things are going to be difficult, and it could probably get harder, And God was really revealing to me, man, Daniel, I've given you self-control. You've been a victim of all the things people have ever done to you. And the worst thing that's happened is it has created a mindset in you that makes you a victim. And that's where the gospel comes in. It completely changed me, man. It completely changed my mentality and my belief system on that. The great thing about self-control is that it's a fruit of the Spirit. God gives us His Spirit so that self-control can be produced in our lives. And Jesus showed me, looking at His life, how to react to situations in forgiveness and in love and in mercy and in kindness and in trusting His promises, trusting what He's done, trusting what He said, allowing who He says I am to be the biggest truth in my life. And it's your reaction to circumstances or people in life that actually gets you in trouble. It'll actually, a lot of the time, get you in more trouble. It could cause you to spin into depression. It could cause you to spin into anxiety and fear and guilt. It could cause you to spin into hardness of heart and not trusting people, And I just want you to know there's absolute freedom in there from that thing. There's freedom from the raccoon. There's freedom from reacting to the situations of life, and it's in Jesus. He shows us how to live life. He shows us how to react to situations. He shows us that there's a better way. The way that the chicken was just reacting in its nature. It has no self-control, but you're not like that. You're made in God's image, and you absolutely in Christ have the power to overcome any circumstance that comes your way. And it doesn't mean everything's going to come out peachy, and it doesn't mean everything's going to work out. And I'm not saying that there aren't absolutely situations that are going to come your way where you need healing, right? But why do you need healing? You need healing in these situations because that circumstance or that person did something to you and caused a belief system in your mind, in your heart, to start perpetrating and spinning, and it develops into this crazy thing, whether it manifests itself in control or fear or whatever, right? The chicken freaking out. It manifests a belief set in you. God wants to get us free from that stuff. He doesn't want anybody or anything or any circumstance controlling you. He wants you to be who you are because of who He says you are, not because of how circumstances or how people treat you. I've found lots of freedom in looking to Jesus and for guidance in how to deal with life circumstances and situations. And not everything's turned out perfectly, but I'm the one who's in charge of my soul, and I entrust my soul to the Creator, and anything that comes my way, man, I'm not going to let that thing be Lord over my life and cause me to react in a way that's going to be detrimental to me, to my soul, or to my relationships with other people. You can be free today from that. You can absolutely be free from that. So I just want to encourage you guys, this year, let's ditch that victim mentality. Let's stop allowing people and situations to control us and to determine who we're going to be. Let's completely trust God and believe who he says we are and believe that that is truer and more important than anything that anybody could ever do to me. Because all I'm doing is letting them be Lord over my life if they're going to treat me a certain way, and I'm going to react to it. And that determines my day. Because you know what happens then? All that's going to happen is that I'm going to have to wait for a bunch of great things to happen before I'm okay. And that does not always happen. Sometimes it does, but you're going to be rolling like a wave of the sea, up and down, up and down. Jesus is constant. His word never fails. He's the same yesterday, today, forever, and his love for you is great. I want to plant my thoughts and my mind and my emotions and everything I do. I want to plant it on the love of God and react from that place to life circumstances, because that's safe, man. You stay vulnerable, you stay soft, you stay kind, and people actually start losing the ability to hurt you like they used to. I really hope this encouraged you guys. There's freedom in the cross. There's freedom in what Jesus has demonstrated. You don't have to be victims of the chicken mentality. Thanks for watching. Give it a like, give it a share. Check out my YouTube channel, Daniel Fewster. On YouTube, there's a whole bunch of videos there I've done. You can watch old ones, stuff like that. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much, guys. God bless. Have a good day.